Hello, I'm Hamish Renton. I've been involved in the dairy industry for the best part of 20 years, and I've experienced the industry from a number of perspectives. I've worked for all parts of the supply chain, from large dairy retailers like Tesco to dairy producers and cooperatives and dairy processors such as St Ivel and Milklink. And I'm here today in Wiseman's Dairy in Bridgwater, which is the first of the UK's new breed of mega dairies. And over the next few minutes, I wanted to share some insights with you. So, let's look at the future of the dairy industry towards 2020 at a global, EU and UK level. The fact is that the dairy industry is one of the world's fastest growing agricultural industries. And if we look back at the last decade, we can see that world milk production grew by 2.1% a year. And looking forward, that growth rate will continue to some 880 million tonnes by 2020. And as with the overall global economy, the established markets, the US, Europe, the UK, will fall relative to developing markets. Dairy consumption in these established markets will grow modestly, whilst in new economies, a 30% increase in consumption is expected. This is driven by increasing populations, growing income levels, and an increasing consumer preference for dairy products. And global trade will rise, as in these new developing countries, they won't be producing enough dairy to satisfy their own internal domestic demand. So exports of all dairy products will rise. And with this, world market prices will rise, largely in line with production costs. Price instability is here to stay, with variable weather patterns, changing income growth, and supply and demand changes to create 2- and 3-year cycles of relative boom and relative bust. And there's the ever-present possibility of health scares such as the Chinese melamine scandal of 2009. In fact, in the short term, world market demand will be affected by a relative slowdown in the Chinese economy, which is happening now. There are a number of implications from this. The EU will export less commodity products, and the EU dairy industry will become more dependent on its own internal markets. Added value exports, specialty cheese, brands, technically developed products will continue to increase. Cheese and skim milk powder exports are expected to grow modestly, but the EU will lose share on world markets. Chinese and Indian dairy companies are likely to seek EU partners or mergers or takeovers to get access to technology, but also products for their own markets. And instability in world market prices will affect EU prices, as small changes in the world balance of supply and demand has a disproportionately big effect on prices. And provided import demand continues to grow, world market prices should gradually increase. Turning now to the European Union, milk production is expected to grow by 0.6% a year over the next 10 years, with increasing yields fueling a lot of this. Production will vary from year to year, depending on the ratio of feed costs to the milk price return. Milk supplies will be more price sensitive, particularly after changes to direct farm payments and cuts in intervention support. The EU quota is expected to be underfilled by 9% in 2014 to 15, and the abolition of quotas will have little effect on the growth in EU milk supplies. Production will drift westwards towards Ireland, Brittany, and the west of the GB. Higher rates of growth, both in deliveries and consumption, are probable in the new EU member states, because they will be showing income growth and consumption growth above the EU average. Within the UK, there is a mixed picture, but some notable positives looking forward. The UK has a large liquid market, absorbing over 50% of milk supplies. This gives stability to the industry, with returns only affected by fluctuating cream prices, and a cost-plus system in place for many contracts. The development of mature cheddar brands has increased volumes, and there's now a clear consumer preference for products carrying the British flag or other descriptors. The UK also has growing dairy markets. Over the past 5 years, the UK cheese market has grown by up to 3%, liquid milk by 1%, and butter by 0.5% a year, and fermented yoghurt products by around 2%. UK cheese exports have grown by 25% over the last 5 years, particularly mozzarella and cheddar. and exports are almost all to the EU, and there's very little exported from the UK onto a very volatile world market. There are, however, some weaknesses that the UK dairy industry faces, including low margins on liquid milk, with most of the cost savings gained in the move from doorstep to retail distribution now long gone. Smaller players will continue to exit, particularly in the ultra-competitive middle ground. The Irish dairy industry will seek to expand within the UK. However, it will be hampered by seasonality and instead be largely focused on supplying ingredients to the EU and the world market. The power of the supermarkets limits returns available, strengthened by the growth of retailer milk pools. And in addition, the growth of the discounters, Aldi, Lidl, will squeeze liquid milk margins and also affect margins in cheese.